Good morning. Welcome to Columbia University. We're so excited to have you um, join our community. We're going to be discussing our operation and billing some of the services that we have here in our office, the Student Service Center. I'm Kia Woods, the director, and you'll meet my colleague shortly. So again, some terms you should be familiar with. We are the Student Service Center, but when you get here, you'll hear a lot of different acronyms thrown around, and it's going to be kind of confusing at first. So hopefully this kind of brief introduction to some terms that you should know or become familiar with will help you navigate different offices and departments. So we're Student Financial Services, which handles billing, refunds, sponsors, students, and we'll go in detail about all of these different departments later on in the presentation. Again, we are the Student Service Center, so we stand for SSC. And we are registrar and the front-facing office for Student Financial Services. We have different platforms that we're going to review with you that you should become familiar with, that you'll be using to basically the entire time, your entire tenure at the university. These different platforms host various different services where you will do most of your operation at the university. So we'll go into, one of them is SSOL, which is where you're going to do authorized payer setup, account management, and then we have our student information system, which is Virgil. And we launched Virgil in 2023, and it's the new front-facing kind of platform for students. And eventually it will be all-encompassing, and you will only use one platform to do all of your business. But right now, you will do your business in both platforms, which is SSOL and Virgil. Virgil is the landing page for most of your activities, for some of your activities, which is personal information and academic records. Right now, those are the only two things, different services that are being held in Virgil, and academic enrollment, but we'll go over that and we'll have a screenshot of what it actually looks like so that you can become familiar with it. So again, like I said, we are Student Financial Service, the Office of the Registrar. So we set up payment plans, payment methods, understanding your bill. We're basically the office where students and parents and come to us for everything. We're like the know-it-all, be-all liaison to all the other resources and services on campus, from how to pay my bill to where's the best restaurant or the best hotel. And we pride ourselves on being able to provide students and all of our parents and our stakeholders with information. If we don't know the answer, we definitely try to find out how we can help you. So that's what we're here for. And we have other services. We assist with registration questions. We answer basic questions regarding refunds. Like I said, we are right now a one-stop program in the office too, but we're more like a half a stop. So you'll see that we have a subset of offices within our office, and we're located at Ken Hall, and I'll go over that later, where we have different services. And those services are where you would come for financial aid. You get your ID card. We do the transcripts and all your academic credentialing. This is what happens in our office. One thing to note is everyone here at this webinar series is going to receive an ID card. And that ID card is printed by our office, and then we distribute those ID cards to the different schools, and then they're responsible for distribution of the ID cards. So you would not come to the ID center to receive your ID card. They will be given to you during your orientation or your check-in process. It went to the next slide. Just so you know, so you make sure you take care of your ID card, because there's a $20 replacement ID card fee if you lose it or it is stolen. And now I'm going to go to the next slide, which is the Virgil, the hub of information. So this is what Virgil looks like. This is where you'll find information about your academic records. You'll update your SSN. You'll update your local address. This is where you'll do your preferred name, which is one of the things that we have at the university. A lot of students choose to use a preferred name. You may have already experienced some of that during your application process, or where they've asked you if you choose a preferred name. You can only choose a preferred first name, but this is where you would kind of update that information. One other thing to note is it's very important that we have your local address. And this is because if you have a refund or stipend that you're supposed to receive, and I'm sure some of you may have heard those terms before, when you attended the financial aid webinar. This is why setting up your local address is so important, so that we can get you your refund or stipend in a timely manner. So on August 12th, that is when the first e-bill will be generated. So the billing statements are generated monthly. You'll be sent an email that is, you can go in and view your statement. This is when now at this time, you're able to set up authorized players. The e-bill is going to include anticipated charges, and we'll talk a little bit more about the anticipated charge and what that looks like. But if you have questions, of course, you should always reach out to our office, and we have other services as well. The next slide is going to show you kind of like what to expect on your billing statement. And so you'll see here is where your name and information is going to be. I'm sorry, I apologize if it's too small for you to read, but just basic information, your date, the amount, the total amount due, that's very important. And what is due, the dates. This is a breakdown of the charges for the bill. And then you see right here where it says anticipated activity. This is the part where we'll go in detail about what anticipated charges are. And basically all that is we kind of estimate what we expect your balance to be based on your enrollment. And again, this is generated monthly, but we're going to review how the statement is not the best place, the best resource to get your information. It is sometimes confusing, but it's just a snapshot in time. Just like when you receive a credit card statement, it's basically only going to include all of the activity up until that date. And so when things are changing on your account, this is not going to reflect those changes because the statement is out of date. This is another view in SSOL. And this is where you would view your current activity view in SSOL. This can be confusing because there's several places to look at your bill, but the most important thing to note when you're reviewing this is that the amount due is the only part that you really have to worry about. If it says 0, then you don't have an amount due by the payment due date. If you have an amount due, then you know you have a payment due date. And if you look here, it's the balance from last statement. If you have a balance from last statement, then it would be due on the date that's included in the current activity, where it says payment due date. If it is not, if it says 0, then, and you have charges below, then that would indicate that you have to pay those charges by the next statement cycle. So just remember to view the amount due and pay attention to the due date. So this is the screenshot, the page that we refer most students to. We think it's the most comprehensive information to really understand what is going on your bill. So if you look here, you'll see view a bill and pay bill. This is where you're going to set up an authorized payer. This is where you're going to make a payment on your account. This is also where you can review your transaction history to see what payments were made. But this view right here, where it says view student account detail by term, This is the one we refer students to mostly. And this is because this is updated daily, nightly. It's a refresh. So any activity that happened during that day or the day before will be reflected here. So if you add a drop classes, the following day, it will be reflected here. For those of you who may not have any charges on your account, but you have an anticipated bill due date, anticipated charges, we recommend that you use, there's a calculator on this screen where you can add in the charges that you believe you're going to be expected to pay. And then you can calculate your terms and determine what your bill is going to be. So that's just a snapshot into what it is in your login page in SSOL. Then we have the view student account detail by term. And this is where you get to the nitty gritty of what you owe, what your charges are, what your credits are, what your balance owed is. This is your balance owed. It doesn't have the balance due date because that is included on the statement. But this is where you get kind of like all of the details of what your is being charged on your account. So credits indicate these are payments. And if you see a minus at the bottom, that means that's a credit. That means a refund may be owed to you. And you'll have the charges column. So this is why we recommend this page, because it's a lot more comprehensive to understand. And then you have the dates columns, which tells you when these charges or credits were applied to your account. One thing to note here is that when you make payments, it's going towards the total balance. It is not towards an itemized charge on your account. So if you think you're just paying like a housing charge, you're not going to be just paying a housing charge. It's going to go towards the full balance of the bill. So this is just a slide that kind of gives you the distinguishing the differences between both the e-bill statement and the view student account detail by term. For authorized payers, this would be in quick pay. Unfortunately, you don't have the view student account detail by term, but you do have the current activity slide that I showed previously, where it outlines the amount due and the balance owed and balances from the previous statement. So here, let's review credit balances. I know I alluded to some of this before, but credit balances are caused by a variety of factors. So if you have loans or scholarships that are coming in, a 529 payment that is coming into the account, these will all be considered credit balances towards the account, and they will be dispersed at various different times. And so when you're viewing your view student account detail by term, you may see a area on the bill where it says anticipated credits. And it's exactly that, anticipated credits. It means that you've notified financial aid that you have a scholarship or loan that is coming in. And so when they're doing your bill, they are anticipating that you will receive those funds. And so it's considered an anticipated credit. Anticipated credits don't necessarily mean that those funds have arrived. And so they're just anticipated. You can't count on those funds until they move to the actual charges or credits column in the view student account detail by term. So that's just something to note. And if the anticipated loans, credits, or scholarships don't come in by a certain time, then you would be responsible for that outstanding part of the balance. And going back to refunds. So if you have anticipated credits and you'll see a credit on your account that may be owed to you, this is not considered a refund until the anticipated credits become actual. Then you'll be issued a refund based on a school schedule when they begin to disperse refunds. It's usually, you can go to the SFS website that I noted here, and you'll see a menu option that says schedule. And when you click on the schedule, it'll tell you what your school schedule is for refund disbursement. In addition, some schools don't participate in automatic refund. So those schools will have a separate link, usually to the financial aid office, where you can request your refund. Most students who participate in automatic refund, the schools who participate in automatic refund, those students would be able to um, start the refund process in SSOL, where under the menu option where it says refunds, if you have a valid credit balance, meaning it's not part of anticipated, it's part of your credits column already, and your balance is paid in full, and you've exceeded the amount owed on your balance, then you would execute the process for refunds in SSOL. One of the things that we recommend students do is enroll in direct deposit. And this just speeds up the process of executing and processing the refund. If you enroll in direct deposit, you would designate a bank account where any refunds or credit balances would be automatically sent to those accounts when the refunds are dispersed. One of the things that we usually tell students when it comes to refunds is if you choose not to have, you don't want to participate in direct deposit, then you would decline to participate in direct deposit, and you would need to send an email to refunds refund.info@columbia.edu to say that you wish to have the credit balance remain on your account. The reason for that is because it's an automatic process. So they'll just automatically refund you. But if you know you're going to be here for several terms or several years, you can request to have the credit balances remain on your account for a term or so. Okay, so I believe that I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Aaron, who is going to review the next few slides. So thank you. And again, welcome to Columbia.
Okay, thank you so much, Kia. I really appreciate getting us started here. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and go over the remainder of our presentation before we can get into your questions. So the first thing I wanted to go over here was creating an authorized payer. So just something to be mindful of at any university is we're subject to what's called FERPA laws. All students in universities and parents are subject to a law that's called the Family Educational Records and Privacy Act of 1974. So there's a lot of protections that are put in place for students when it comes to the privacy of their academic records. That includes a lot of the billing and financial records of a student as well. Um, so in order for a parent or family member to be designated as an appropriate payer for a student's tuition and fees, that student will have to set them up as an authorized payer. And how we do that at Columbia is we have within SSOL an option to add someone as an authorized payer. And to do that, you'll just log into SSOL and it's under the section called account detail and e-billing, which we've been kind of going over throughout this presentation. And you'll be brought into a menu option that'll give you a link that your parent or family member can use to create an account. So what that is going to enable you to do is the authorized payer is going to have their own login information that they'll be able to use to set up a bank account. And they'll also begin to be getting billing notifications. Whenever a bill is due, they'll be alerted to that. One thing to really keep in mind is the authorized payer is the only person who can change or modify those banking details. So this is a really important detail when it comes to students who are going to be enrolling in a payment plan. The last thing you'd want is to be needing to update some account information and miss a payment in your payment plan because because the you're not able to update it, whereas the authorized payer is. And then another small detail that does come up every once in a while is if you're a parent of multiple students at Columbia, you're actually going to have two separate logins for each student. So just keep in mind that if you do have multiple students here, you'll have to log in to both, and both students will have to set up an authorized payer account for you in SSOL. And the platform for this is called QuickPay. So you'll see the we have a URL here, and this is what you'll be referring to. The vendor is QuickPay when you're setting up an authorized payer. And a couple more things to keep in mind is that a student can always add or delete authorized payers within SSOL. A lot of times, if a parent, for example, has maybe lost the password to their authorized payer login information, that can only be resent by the student. So the first thing to do whenever you have an issue or need help with something with an authorized payer credential is to reach out to the student, because they'll be able to update that and send you a new login information really quickly through SSOL. And really, and that again, that's just done by deleting the old authorized pair and adding the new one. So you'll see here, I'm just going back to the previous slide. There's an option to add a new payer and to delete a payer, and you can do this in real time. The next thing I wanted to cover here is financing options. Just right off the bat, I wanted to say that credit cards are not a preferred or accepted payment option at Columbia. So, for the most part, we accept e-checking and we have a few wire services, but credit cards aren't available to you. And one other point is sponsored students. So this is usually going to be the case if you have we have a lot of international students in particular where their education is being sponsored by like maybe a Ministry of Education at their home country. So you'll be setting up that information through the sponsored billing division here at Columbia, and to have that email address here included is sponsoredbilling@columbia.edu. And to get that going, you're going to have to complete a third-party billing agreement, and that's found on the Student Financial Services website to initiate that process. So it takes a little bit of time for a sponsored billing arrangement to be set up. So I recommend getting started on that as soon as possible if you're expecting your tuition to be paid externally like that. Another thing to keep in mind is that invoicing is going to begin around the change of program period, which is about September 30th, and that's roughly 30 days after the invoice date. And this is again referring to sponsored billing. If one thing you should also keep in mind is the student is expected to pay a portion of that balance if it's not being covered by the sponsor by the due date. So you're still, if you have a sponsor that's not paying your entire tuition or maybe all of your fees as well, you will be responsible for paying what's left over and by the due date. And here's we actually have a number of questions in the chat about this, and so I'll be talking about this now, and I'll also be answering the questions at the end, and that's the payment plan. So the payment plan, and I wanted to clarify here, is the payment plan is either a monthly or annually available option where you can pay your tuition and fees by installment. It's always best we have a certain schedule for joining a payment plan. And the sooner that you join a payment plan, the better the terms are for you. And it's always a 0% interest rate plan, but there are larger down payments that are required the longer that you wait to enroll. So it's just something to keep in mind. And there is a nominal fee associated with these. It's if you just have a semesterly plan, it's going to be a $30 fee, and the annual plan is a $50 fee. And that's really the only differences between a term fee and a semesterly fee. So obviously, if you're anticipating being at Columbia for an entire year, and you're going to be registering for the fall, and you're definitely going to be taking spring classes, it's probably behooves you to join the annual plan. It's one thing less thing to remember when you get to that second term, and you also get a small discount in terms of the fees that you have to pay. And each of these are going to be split up, no matter if you join a term plan or a annual plan. It's going to be 5 payments a semester. And as we discussed in the earlier in this presentation, you'll be able to enter the amount that you're paying into the payment plan when you sign up for it. That will either be pre-populated if you've gotten your bill, or you'll have to pay enter an estimate when you sign up for the payment plan. And something we do here a lot at the Student Service Center is we'll have, let's say you're a full-time student and you drop to half-time. Something you may want to do is to rebalance your bill so that your monthly payments are lower. That typically happens automatically, but you can always reach out to us if you'd like to rebalance your payment plan. And it goes the other way too. If you end up maybe going from a part-time student to a full-time student, obviously the tuition owed, and in most cases the fees that are owed are more, your payment plan will adjust to pick up the slack for that. And I think something that's important to remember is, and to probably bookmark, is that we have a billing schedule. We have a billing schedule that's posted on the Student Financial Services website, and you'll get this by email. Typically, if you're an authorized payer or a student, you'll be getting your bill on a certain on a certain timeline, and that timeline is not the same as your payment plan timeline. So just to explain that for a second, the billing schedule is a guide for billing due dates for new charges that are applied to your account, and that full balance is due by, in this case, September, for the fall, September 20th, if you're not enrolled in a payment plan. But anyway, these are just separate deadlines that I'd want you to keep in mind of. And one thing to also be aware of is that if you end a semester and you have a balance that's maybe remaining, like let's say that you've paid your tuition, and maybe you had a late fee that was applied during the fall, you cannot carry the charges from the fall semester over to the spring in your payment plan. So if you have any balances from a previous term, those are not going to get automatically carried over, and you're expected to pay the whatever's remaining from that term. This is the payment interface for your tuition and fees. And you'll see here, these are the options that we really have are e-check, which is this is going to be asking you for an account and routing number. For those of you that are going to be paying your tuition using a 529 savings account, that's typically where these are applied. And then for international students that don't have an American banking account, we have 3 different wiring services that we use. There's also, it is possible for you to send a check to the university. This is kind of especially the case if you have like a small scholarship that's coming from an outside organization. Sometimes they'll ask you for a mailing address. So we do have that available on our website, but we just recommend that you try to submit that as soon as possible. It's usually at least 3 weeks before the due date because it does take time to manually process checks. And then also what's crucially important is that when that person, whether it's a scholarship or yourself or a parent, if you're sending in a check, you really must include as much either a copy of the billing statement itself or at least your student ID numbers so that once we get this check in the mail, we know what account to apply it to. When you send just a check, it becomes very complicated to get it associated with the right student if there's no identifying information on it. Okay, so here's a little bit more information about payment plans. The first thing is that you do have to have an American bank account for registering for a payment plan. So if you have an international bank account, you'll won't be able to use that for a payment plan. You'll have to open an American bank account. So you can, again, if you're an international student, you can use a wire service though. Credit card payments, again, are not an acceptable form of payment. So there's only, I think that in some instances you can use a credit card for a deposit, but in most cases it's not an acceptable form of payment. There's something to keep in mind is that payment plans, the payment will withdraw from the associated bank account on a monthly basis, and it's usually the 5th or 6th of each month. And those dates cannot be changed. I know a lot of cases, these days you can, if you have a credit card or something, you can select the day that those funds leave your account. In this case, we don't have that available. It's always going to be the 5th or the 6th. One thing you can do though, if you ever have to, like something comes up and you need to cancel a payment or modify a payment that's coming up, let's say that you know that you have a payment that's going to be debited from your account on the 5th or 6th, and you're at risk of having insufficient funds, you can always write to us at ssc@columbia.edu to cancel that. You just have to do that 3 days before the withdrawal date, or 3 days before that it's scheduled to be taken from your account. So at the beginning of the month, at the end of the previous month, would be even better. And another thing you can do that's actually probably a little bit more an even faster way to, if you'd like to cancel payment, you can always call us as well. So on the SSC website, you'll see our number. It's 212-854-4400. And we'll share that with you at the end of the slide. But if you need to cancel a payment, you can also just give us a call, or you can, if you're a student that's on campus, you can come see us in 210 Ken Hall, which is where I am now, by the way. If you hear any activity in the background, it's because this is a very, very active office. So, and we're here 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, except for Tuesdays. Today we close at 4, but just throwing that out there. One thing you should also just keep in mind is that when you do sign up for a payment plan, it's going to take 24 hours for that to become active. So I don't recommend signing up for a payment plan, one day before the payment is due. It's try to get that enrolled maybe at least 2 or 3 days before the payment is due, which is going to be, that's kind of a running lesson about a lot of this, is just doing stuff proactively is just going to avoid a lot of problems. Okay.
Can I just interject for one moment?
Sure.
And one thing I would add about the payment plan and enrollment is that when you enroll, the money is going to be transacted right away. A lot of times people think you can enroll and then the money is going to be transacted a different day, another week, but it's immediate. So like the following day, it's going to be removed from the account. And in some cases, it's immediate. And then if you don't, when you enroll, if the payment fails on your first time, you are going to be terminated from the plan automatically. You don't remain in the account because the enrollment fee and the payment must go through in order for the payment plan to be active, remain active. And also remember that you need to receive the confirmation from the payment plan, and that is confirmation that you've enrolled.
Mhm.
There has been times where students will think they've enrolled in the payment plan, but in fact, they have not enrolled in a plan completely. So you have to go through all the steps. And when you receive that confirmation with the outline of what your installments are going to be, that's when you know, and it'll say, this is your payment plan is complete, you're all set up. So just to note that. So thank you, Aaron.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much, Kip, for that. Those are important details. Um, so here on this slide, this is kind of giving you a preview of what it looks like to register for a payment plan. And again, the options for us are you can either have an annual plan, and that's for the academic year, for that's fall and spring. It doesn't include the summer semester. Or you can have a term by term payment plan. And both of these plans are, whether you register for an annual plan or a semesterly plan, they're going to have the same due dates, and it's going to have the same number of payments per term. So again, it's going to be the 5th or 6th of each month when the installments are debited from your bank account, and there's going to be 5 total for each semester. So just keep that in mind when you're registering for a payment plan. So you're going to be selecting an option for a payment plan here, and the following screen for you is going to be this budget worksheet. So if you are have already received your bill, you'll notice that the values are pre-populated. You'll already see at least what is due at that time already here in your charges, and you can change this as well. This is a completely editable field. Um, so what this would do is these estimates, these are ultimately going to be estimates that you're adding at the beginning of the term. So if the plan increases or decreases when actual charges are applied to your account, this would be because your initial estimates weren't totally accurate. Now we also have this credits field as well. So this is any expected, these are basically anticipated credits. So if you have a scholarship, if you have like 529 payments or loans that you expect to receive, but haven't been applied to your account yet, you can add those here. So it's just kind of another tool that will help you enter an accurate estimate of what you should add for your payment plan. And so this is going to automatically populate. So for example, if you have $5,000 of charges and $3,000 of credit, it's going to initiate a payment plan for $2,000. And I think something to keep in mind too is that, when you're first registering for a payment plan, you can put whatever you want here, but this is only going to be editable during the first and second billing period. So once due dates start to become due, and we get into the first weeks of the term, you're not going to be able to edit these amounts. If you do need to make any updates, you can always reach out to us again, through email or dropping by or giving us a call. And another important thing to remember is that after, like, you've set up your charges and credits, and you enroll in the payment plan, you'll receive a confirmation message that you're enrolled, and you'll be able to view a breakdown of each monthly installment. So you can also verify enrollment by selecting the payment plan menu option and viewing the terms of the payment plan there. If you don't receive an outline and a confirmation, you haven't enrolled. So sometimes we do have, this is sort of there's a few steps to initiating the payment plan, and just keep hitting continue. Some people miss a step, and you think you're registered for a payment plan, but unless you have an email and a confirmation number, that it hasn't been set up yet. And as we discussed earlier, you can have one authorized payer can be enrolled in the payment plan, but multiple people Oh yeah, so if you have an authorized payer, let me rephrase this. If you have an authorized payer, that can only be one individual, but if you're multiple people can set up payments from the payment plan. And Kia, can you confirm that? I just want to make sure I'm describing accurate.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely, I can jump
Hmm.
in.
Hmm.
So yeah, when you set up the payment plan, only one authorized payer can be attached to the payment plan.
Hmm.
And only that authorized payer is able to change the banking details of
Hmm.
the payment plan. And that is to secure the authorized payer's banking information. And so if you have, let's say, two students, like Aaron explained before,
Hmm.
you would need to become the authorized payer on both of those accounts. You can't combine them to pay one plan for one plan. So just the only thing to note is that if you want to set up a different authorized payer, let's say mom is going to pay um, for the first 2 months and dad is going to pay for the last 3 months. You would have to delete the other authorized payer attached to the payment plan, add the other authorized payer to the payment plan, and then they can pay for the last remaining months of the payment plan. But that's the only way you can add multiple people to a payment plan is they have to be deleted and added as a new one. It's not like you can have multiple people on the same payment plan at simultaneously.
Hmm. Okay, thank you so much. That's clearer than what the direction I was going. Thank you, Kia. Um, so I'm just going to continue here. There's only a couple more areas that we can discuss before we open it for Q&A. And I've got a lot of really good questions here, so thank you for that. Um, One thing you'll have to this is really just to touch base on university health and your insurance and immunization requirements. There's going to be an entire webinar about university health and these issues, I believe, in a week. Um, but I do want to touch over it because these can impact things like registration. Um, so when you've been admitted to the university, that's really when you should be uploading your immunization documents into the patient portal, and that's at www.health.columbia.edu, and you'll see all the links there. Um, and it'll have to be done 30 days before registration. So that's something you should be doing as soon as possible, and it takes around 15 days for this to be processed. So until you've updated your immunization documents, there's will be a hold put on your account. So that means that you won't be able to register for classes. So it's super important to get your immunization records uploaded as soon as possible. The other big point is that there will be some students that are not going to be registering for or using Columbia University health insurance. So you have until September 30th to upload proof that you already have health insurance. So I know you can stay on a parent or guardian's health insurance, I think, until you're 26. So if your student is choosing to stay on a parent's health insurance, you have until September 30th. If you submit those documents late, um, you're going to be have to pay a prorated amount for Columbia Health Insurance. So it won't we you have until September 30th in order to just have a 100% insurance waiver. But anytime after that, you'll have to be paying some amount. And there's also, you'll notice on your bill, there's several different fees associated with health related services. If it's not uh, if you're even if you're on an insurance other than that provided by Columbia, there's a lot of mandatory fees that you'll have to be paying for health services in any case. And that's really we have ambulance services on the campus. There's a lot of different health services that are available, even if you're not registered for health insurance. So health and related services fees is not the same thing as insurance, and that can't be waived. And just to quickly cover some other the type of fees that you'll see on your bill is like a student activity fee. Um, even if you're not necessarily playing on a badminton intramural team, these activities fees includes facilities and things like that. So this is not usually something that can be waived, and document fees is something too. One thing that's unique about Columbia that you don't see at other places is that transcripts and proof of enrollment, or also known as academic certifications, are available free of charge now and until you and then long after you've graduated. So that's never something that we charge for unless it's being expedited to a foreign country or something like that. But if you're using uh, for most just typical transcript and certification requests, those are free. But you'll see while you're a student, you'll have to pay a document fee that's just levied one time while you're at Columbia. And then of course there's another fee that you'll see on your bill that's an orientation fee. So that's something you'll see. And and here's just some more details. I forgot. There's a lot of more information here on about the university health. And this goes over a little bit about the cost of health insurance. One thing that you'll notice, and this happens occasionally. I'm not okay, you might have to remind me if this isn't the case with Columbia College and engineering, but if you'll sometimes people will notice that you're once you start beginning for signing up for classes, you'll have a certain um, amount that's being billed for health insurance, and then later it seems to be doubled, or it'll looks like you're being charged twice for health insurance. And that's because typically we have different rates of health insurance for full-time and part-time students. But I think that for undergraduates, we serve all 17 schools of Columbia University, and I can't remember if that's if there's ever an instance where Columbia College or engineering students are charged at a half rate for being part time, but I don't think that's the case.
That's not the case, but in
Mhm.
some cases you never know. But
Mhm.
I think the main thing to bring home here on this slide is really that in the spring you will see an increase
Mm.
of your bill, and that is attributed to the fact that the spring health insurance fee covers spring and summer. So if you're enrolled in the Columbia Health Plan, it will cover spring and summer. So you're gonna see, like you see 1,888 is for fall. It's a lot lower, but in the spring, it's higher because it covers spring and summer. Um, the other thing is that if you waive the insurance, the waiver may not be applied to your account immediately. It may take health service some time to process the paperwork, and it also depends on when you submit your waiver. But if you don't submit your waiver by the deadline, and you're going to get like a prorated insurance rate. It's not going to be the full amount because technically you had the ability to use the insurance up until the time you notified health services that you were not going to need the service. So it's very important that you waive the insurance by the deadline date because it's very little wiggle room and flexibility in reducing or decreasing or removing the health insurance from a student's account after it's already been applied. And that is also in the rare case where students, hopefully none of you, withdraw from the university, but circumstances do occur, and some students do have to withdraw, midterm. And I'm glad that I'm mentioning to you now that the insurance rate will be prorated in most of those cases. Um, I think that's really the main point that I want to drive home is because a lot of times you'll see that there's a slight increase in the bill and you're wondering, where did this come from? I estimated my charges, my payment plan,
Mhm.
and now I see this, and it's usually attributed to this. And any students who possibly may have housing, it would be the same thing. You will see those different fluctuations for different charges that are being applied to the account. Students who enroll in Flex, and we haven't discussed Flex dollars at all, But that's charges that are applied to your account to allow you to use different dining services or different store services that are on campus or in the surrounding community where you can use your flex dollars. It's a convenient resource, but at the same time, you have to be careful and mindful that this is charges that are being applied to your account. And they'll be included on different statements or bills that you receive. I think that's all I really wanted to cover. There's quite a few questions in the chat, so we might want to try to
Yeah.
read
Yeah.
stuff.
And just I think the one of the last things we have to look at is just some important dates. Um, so Friday, September 20th is the day that enrolling in a payment plan is due to avoid any late charges. And it is the case that you can enroll in a payment plan at any time, but the later that you enroll, the higher percentage of your balance is due upfront. So by the time we get to October, that's going to require paying 80% of your total balance for a term before a payment plan will kick in. And all of this is available on our website as well. But just some other important dates is that you're going to get your first bill by email, that will go to students, or if you have an authorized payer that's set up, they'll be getting a copy of that bill too. It's going to be arriving on August 12th, and then the first payment of the term is due by September 20th. And of course, the August 12th date coincides with the bill is going to be mailed, and that's also the day that you'll have to be setting up any authorized payer by. And the key, I actually had a question about this. When you do on October 1st is when you'll need to be reapplying for any financial aid. Is that referring to the spring term?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
FAFSA. That's when
Okay.
they can reapply for financial aid, the FAFSA. I'm sure they went over that in the financial aid webinar. But if you can go back to the previous slide real quick, because there's questions about this in terms of the payment plan. So
Mhm.
you can sign up. The day you can sign up for the payment plan is as early as August 2nd. So you can sign up. I mean, actually, I think for continuing students is open now, but you can sign up for the payment plan. Again, you'll be making estimates because there are no charges. So the recommendation is if you end up doing that, when you sign up for the payment plan, when you receive the bill, you can go in and adjust your balance accordingly, or you could wait because the payment plan, I don't think we went over this, rebalances and on a schedule. So it'll rebalance up on a schedule and it'll rebalance down on a schedule. So depending on when charges come in your account, it'll either be included in the payment plan or it will not. If it is not included in the payment plan, then all you would need to do is just adjust the balance to include that amount in the payment plan, or you can reach out to us to adjust the balance, but it will rebalance up and rebalance down on a schedule. The other thing that I think we need to mention is that if you need to cancel a payment that you made, you can't call us 2 or 3 days later to cancel the payment, because we have a very, very small window to cancel a payment.
Mhm.
It's like only a few hours. It depends on when you made the payment. So that is something that should be done immediately. Like, you need to call us, as Aaron said. Emailing is not the best solution, especially during our peak periods, because we're usually very busy and we have a small team answering hundreds of inquiries that come in via email. So the best thing to do is to call our 212-854-4400, which is our call center, and then they escalate those to us so that we can get eyes on it as soon as possible. So just keep that in mind if you make, and I know we had a question in the chat about if you make a payment in the payment plan, can you also make, if you're enrolled in a payment plan, can you also make like isolated payments? You can make isolated payments in your payment plan. However, this does not exempt you from your scheduled installments. Those are just additional payments. So if you make a payment on September 2nd and you have a payment due on September 5th, the September 5th installment is still going to be automatically withdrawn from your account. So just keep that in mind. If your intention is to skip that payment, then you would need to reach out to us so that we could cancel that payment because you made an isolated online check payment instead of the payment plan automatic withdrawal payment.
Mhm.
I think you can go to like the next slide. These are just
Yeah.
dates. And this concludes the presentation. We want to thank you for joining us. These are some important contacts that we have here for you. Again, like I said, the 212-854-4400 is our call center, and they escalate calls to us appropriately, and student family support. So now we're going to jump into the Q&A. I know we had a question about the 529 plans. I'm glad this was brought up. So 529 plans, we accept 529 plans. We don't determine what the eligibility is of a 529 plan. That is strictly determined by your 529 plan. We recommend that you execute the 529 plan as early as 30 days prior to the due date. And that is mostly because the 529 payments are usually sent to our PO box, and it takes quite some time for processing. So if you want to make sure that your child's payment is made and everything is squared away, the best thing to do is to begin to execute that process as soon as possible. And also to remember to include, like Erin said, the student name, full name, and student ID number on the 529 payment so that we can apply it to the appropriate account. For scholarships that are handled, like outside scholarships, it's very important that you notify financial aid that you have these scholarships coming in, because they are going to do the necessary accounting to make sure it's included on your account so that it can be a part of your anticipated credits. Once those payments come in, financial aid should really inform you, the financial aid office of your school should inform you of how they expect to receive those scholarships. Sometimes those scholarships are sent directly to the specific school. Sometimes those scholarships are sent to our PO box office. But I will drop a link in the chat where you can learn. This website that I am dropping in the chat right now is a very important website. The Student Financial Services website has a lot of information in terms of how to pay, how to set up an authorized payer, the billing schedule. 529 has details about the 529 savings plan, what you need to do, where you need to send the check, things like that. And so I would say become very familiar with that website, as well as the registrar's website, which I will also drop in the chat. If you don't mind, Erin, if you could drop that in the chat, the registrar's website. One
Yes.
thing we didn't mention about registration, and I know this because a lot of new students, they come in and they say, when do we register? How do we register? You will not register for classes until you've attended, most of you, until after you've attended orientation. New students, that's just the way it is. That's when new students register. And that's obviously because, the continuing students have to take classes and get classes first or whatever. And then most of the freshmen, you're taking intro courses and things of that nature. I might as well just go over it. If you have a situation where you're registered for a course and you find that you can't get into that course, we have a process where you would need to get instructor permission for during the ad drop period. And then you would send those requests to us via ssc@columbia.edu saying, I would like to be in this class. I have the instructor permission, and you must have a physical signature from the instructor or an email from the instructor saying that they approve you to be in the class, even though the class is full. And so I just want to give you that little tidbit because I know it's important. A lot of times students have questions regarding registration. So I have a question in the chat. Can 529 plans be made directly to Columbia SFS account rather than being mailed bank transfer? I believe they can. That's why I am referring you to the SFS website where those details should be included. I believe we have a relationship with Flywire for some of those. So you have to see who's participating, I think, is what the situation is. I have a question. I'm just answering these live.
Mhm.
Do you have, is Virgil, the Virgil address, do you have to set it up a local address in Virgil? Yes, you set it up in Virgil. If you live in a dorm, you would set up your local address on campus or wherever you are in the city. Okay, I went over that.
Oh,
You went over the distinguishing between the annual and the monthly payment plans. The annual is just, you're just paying for both fall and spring at the same time. But it's still 5 payments in the fall and 5 payments in the spring. And the fee is the distinction, but it's not that much of a distinction. It just means that as soon as the charges come on, you'll already be enrolled for the January 5th installment, automatic withdrawal when you enroll in the annual plan.
Yeah. And I have a couple more questions here. Can an authorized payer add multiple bank accounts? And the answer is no. You can't have multiple bank accounts at the same time, but the student can always delete an authorized payer and then add them back again. That's the case, correct? Yeah.
Yep, that's the
Yeah.
case. You would have to delete and add a new authorized payer. So you would have to go through the whole sign up process again. And then those automatic withdrawals will come from that bank account.
Yeah, and there's a number of questions too about some students, in particular athletes, might have a medical insurance waiver as part of their admission into Columbia per their financial aid package, and that will be processed by your financial aid office. So that's a little bit different than just a general waiver because you're using a parent or family member's health insurance. It's because, or you're just simply choosing a different insurance plan. That's something that's part of your financial aid package. So I don't think any action would be required there.
I have a question in the chat about a tuition exemption. We have a Columbia employee or undergraduate tuition exemption. So you would need to fill out the tuition exemption form for once you get the e-bill, it's the whole statement. So you don't have to send in the e-bill every month. So one thing we need to distinguish, like just clarify or reiterate, is that if you're not enrolled in a payment plan, the full balance is due by the due date, which was September 20th. If you're enrolled in the payment plan, then you spread the payments out evenly for the 5 payments when you're enrolled, or 4 payments, depending on when you're enrolled in the payment plan. So you would just need to do the tuition exemption the one time for the e-bill that you receive.
Okay. One question, Kia, that I see is, do people sponsored by a third party need to apply for a payment plan? In other words, is that required if you have third party billing?
You don't need to apply for a third party, but if you have third party billing and let's say they're only covering tuition and fees and you're responsible for housing, you can enroll the housing part of the bill in the payment plan. Third parties will be invoiced 30 days after the change of program period, which is September 20th. And the third party sponsors part of the bill won't be due until the due date on the invoice, which is usually 30 days. But you would be responsible for paying whatever portion you have. If you're paying dining and housing, you are expected to either pay that by the due date of September 20th or be enrolled in a payment plan.
Okay, I think Kia, I think that might be all we have time for at the moment, but I've left these resources on the screen. If you'd like to just take a picture of these, or these are obviously also on our website as well. If you go to ssc.columbia.edu.
So I just want to answer this
Oh yeah,
last
sure.
for, um, if you are trying to update your social security number, you would need to do that, on SSOL, is where you would update your SSN. Uh, yeah, SSOL, still in SSOL,
Hmm.
is where you would need to update your SSON, your SSN. I'm happy to just answer the questions. That's why the more you know, the better for us.
Hmm.
So that's why I'm happy to stay on and answer these questions. Um, so we don't accept cash nor credit cards, as Aaron mentioned, to pay any portion of your bill, once you're enrolled at the university. I know that's different from some of your experiences for those of you who were in the summer high school program where they were able to accept credit cards, because that's a different kind of program. So they are able to do that. One thing you can do is, and this could be expensive, but if you get checks from your credit cards, you can issue those checks, write those checks out to yourself, deposit them in your bank account, and then you would be able to make payments from your bank account. Um, I think I covered most of the questions. Yes, you can pay an entire tuition year upfront. We don't recommend, like I said, mailing in a check because it typically takes a very long time to for processing. But if you mail a check in ahead of time, and I drop the chat in the link in the chat, the how do I pay? This website, really, if you navigate to any of the links with your questions, it should pretty much answer what you need to know in terms of like payment. There's stuff on financial aid as well. And it links out to the different financial aid offices. International students are eligible for payment plans, but you must have a US bank account. So if you set up a US bank account, once you arrive on campus, you're able to enroll that bank account in a payment plan. The student has to, once you're the authorized payer, the parent can sign up for the payment plan. Yeah, once you arrive in the States, you have to open the checking account. So you can wait. Uh, yes, the payment plan, you can't enroll until August 2nd. So when you're trying to enroll in the payment plan, when you go in, if you don't see the link to enroll in a payment plan, that means you can't enroll yet, but it will become available. Same thing with authorized payer. Once you see the link to authorized payer, that's when you'll be able to make payments, even though it doesn't say view and pay, you still can make a payment. Those fields are editable too. So like, let's say something happens and you made a double payment, you recognize that you made a payment and one is going to be rejected and the other payment is still showing like you have a zero balance. You can change those fields even though, because you know the payment, something happened and it wasn't accepted. You can go in and still add what the balance owed is. So again, international students you must have a US bank account. So for some of the questions that we may not be able to get to, because I know we're running over, I'm glad that most of you hung in there and stuck with the presentation. Again, if you have any questions, you can feel free to email us if necessary, and we are happy to answer them accordingly. Thank you again and welcome to Columbia. Orientation is going to be a blast once you get on campus, a lot of fun. So I hope you're excited because we're excited to have you, and I hope you have a fantastic year.